The first laugh came from the tallest biker, a booming sound that bounced off the chrome and glass of the roadside cafe. It wasn't cruel at first, more surprised, like he hadn't expected to see a skinny teenage girl step inside wearing a jacket that looked 3 sizes too big. The sleeves swallowed her hands. The leather was cracked with age, the color faded to a deep, tired brown. It looked heavy on her small frame, like it carried weight beyond its stitching. A few other bikers turned in their stools to look, smirks forming as their eyes traveled from her scuffed boots to the jacket hanging off her shoulders. She felt it instantly, that hot tightening in her chest. The familiar awareness of being watched, measured, found lacking. She kept her chin up anyway and walked to the counter, pretending not to hear the whispers that followed her steps. "Nice coat," someone muttered, not even trying to hide the sarcasm. Another laughed. "You steal that from your dad or your grandpa." She didn't answer. She'd learned a long time ago that answering only fed people like this. Instead, she slid onto the last empty stool at the counter and pulled the sleeves back just enough to wrap her fingers around a chipped mug of coffee the waitress set in front of her. The heat grounded her. Outside, engines rumbled as more bikes pulled in, the sound vibrating through the floor and up her legs. The bikers kept glancing her way, their amusement growing. To them, she looked like a kid playing dress-up in a world she didn't belong in. The jacket was the joke. Too old, too worn, too serious for someone with a baby face and nervous eyes. One of them leaned back and said loudly, "Careful, kid. That thing's got more miles on it than you." Laughter rippled around the room. Her jaw tightened, but she didn't flinch. She stared into her coffee as if it held answers, her reflection wavering in the dark surface. She could feel her heart pounding against her ribs, each beat echoing the memory of hands helping her zip that same jacket years ago, of a voice telling her to keep it close, no matter what. She took a slow breath and finally turned her head. That was when the laughter began to die. At first, it wasn't obvious. One biker stopped mid-chuckle, his grin faltering as his eyes narrowed. He leaned forward slightly, squinting at her back as if trying to focus on something just out of reach. Another followed his gaze, then another. Conversations trailed off. A chair scraped softly against the floor. The patch on the back of her jacket had been hidden while she sat hunched forward. Now, as she shifted, it caught the light. It wasn't flashy. No skulls or flames. No loud colors. Just a simple emblem, worn smooth at the edges, stitched with care. A name curved along the top. A symbol beneath it, and a small line of text at the bottom that meant nothing to most people, but everything to the ones who knew. One biker stood up slowly, the stool legs screeching in protest. His face had gone pale beneath his beard. "No way," he murmured, barely audible. Another biker's smile vanished completely. He leaned closer, eyes locked on the patch like he was staring at a ghost. "That can't be real." The tallest biker, the one who'd laughed first, fell silent. His jaw worked as if he wanted to say something but didn't trust his voice. He took a step toward her, then stopped, suddenly unsure. The girl felt the shift before she saw it. The air changed. The laughter that had pressed against her moments ago was gone, replaced by something heavier. She turned slightly on her stool, just enough to glance back. Every eye in the place was on her jacket. Her shoulders stiffened. Instinct told her to brace herself, to be ready for another kind of mockery, maybe worse. Adults didn't like being embarrassed. Men like these especially. She set her mug down carefully, her hand steady despite the tremor in her chest. "What?" she asked quietly. No one answered right away. Finally, one of the older bikers cleared his throat. His voice, when he spoke, had lost its edge. "Where did you get that jacket?" Her fingers curled around the leather at her side. "It was my dad's." The word hung in the air. A few bikers exchanged looks. The tallest one swallowed hard. "Your dad," he repeated, slower now. "What was his name?" She hesitated. This part always felt like stepping onto thin ice. Saying it out loud made things real in a way that hurt. But she lifted her chin anyway. "Marcus Hale," she said. People called him Hawk. The silence that followed was absolute. A mug slipped from someone's hand and shattered on the floor, the sound sharp and out of place. No one laughed. No one moved to clean it up. The name had landed like a punch to the chest. "Hawk," one biker whispered. "Hawk Hale." The girl nodded once. The tallest biker exhaled slowly and ran a hand over his face. When he looked at her again, his eyes were different. Softer, almost stunned. "Kid," he said, his voice rough, "Hawk saved my life." She blinked, thrown off by the sudden shift. "What?" "He pulled me out from under a bike after a crash up north," the man continued. "Would have burned alive if it wasn't for him. Never even waited for thanks. Just slapped my shoulder and told me to ride smarter." Another biker stepped forward. "He helped my sister," he said. "Got her home safe when she broke down in the desert. Stayed with her all night so she wouldn't be alone." A third nodded. "He taught me how to rebuild my engine. Didn't ask for a damn thing in return." The girl's throat tightened. She hadn't expected this. She'd grown up on stories about her father, but they were always secondhand, always tinged with loss. Hearing his name spoken with respect by strangers felt like opening a door she didn't know existed. "He was..." She started, then stopped. The words tangled up with emotion. "He was good." The tallest biker nodded firmly. "Yeah," he said, "he was." He looked around at the others, his earlier amusement replaced by something close to shame. "We didn't know," he added, quietly now. She shrugged, a small, protective motion. "Most people don't." He glanced at the patch again, recognition settling fully into his expression. "That emblem," he said. "Only full members wore that. He earned it the hard way." She traced the stitching with her thumb. "He told me it meant family." "It does," the biker said. "Or it did, when men like him were around." The waitress hovered nearby, confused by the sudden seriousness. No one paid attention to her. The bikers had closed in slightly, not threatening, but respectful, like they were guarding something fragile. The tallest biker pulled off his gloves and set them on the counter. "You hungry?" he asked gently. She shook her head. "Just passing through." "Where you headed?" another asked. She hesitated again, then answered honestly. "Nowhere special." The biker nodded, understanding more than she'd said. "If you need anything," he said, "you say the word." She met his gaze, surprised by the sincerity there. "Thank you." A few moments later, she slid off the stool and headed for the door. No one laughed this time. As she passed, one biker stepped aside to give her space. Another nodded at her jacket, a silent acknowledgement. Outside, the air was cool and smelled of fuel and dust. She paused for a second, hand resting over the patch on her back. Inside, engines stayed silent. Inside, grown men sat quietly, thinking about a man they'd loved and a girl who carried his legacy without even trying. She hadn't gone far when she heard it. Footsteps. Behind her, slower than her own but steady. For a split second, her body tensed. Old habits. She kept walking, fingers brushing the inside of her jacket where she kept bus fare folded thin. Then a voice called out, calm and careful. "Hey, kid." She stopped and turned. The tallest biker stood a few steps away, helmet tucked under his arm. Up close, he looked older than she'd thought at first. Lines etched deep around his eyes, the kind that came from sun and wind and years of watching roads stretch endlessly ahead. He lifted one hand, palm open, as if to show he wasn't a threat. "Didn't mean to scare you," he said. "It's okay," she replied, though her heart still beat a little faster. He nodded toward the jacket. "I didn't get a chance to say it properly back there. I'm sorry." For laughing. She studied his face, searching for any hint of insincerity. She found none. Just regret. "It happens," she said. "Still," he insisted, "doesn't make it right." They stood in awkward silence for a moment, the rumble of the highway filling the gap. Finally, he cleared his throat. "You got somewhere safe to stay tonight?" She hesitated. Lying would be easier. It always was. But something about the way he asked, without pity, without pressure, made honesty slip out. "Not really," she admitted. His jaw tightened slightly, not in anger, but concern. "You traveling alone?" She nodded. He glanced back at the cafe, then at the line of bikes parked out front. "We're headed east," he said. "Couple hours down the road. There's a decent motel we stop at sometimes. Nothing fancy, but it's clean. You'd have your own room." She stiffened. "I don't." "I know," he said quickly. "I'm not asking for anything. Just..." Hawk wouldn't have wanted his kid sleeping rough. The mention of her father hit her square in the chest. She swallowed. "You knew him well." Well enough, he said. Enough to know what kind of man he was. She looked down at her boots, the toes worn thin. He died when I was 9. I know, the biker said softly. We heard. He went out helping someone, didn't he? She nodded again, blinking fast. A family stuck on a mountain road. Their brakes failed. He flagged them down. Got the kids out. The truck rolled before he could jump clear. The biker closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, they shone. That sounds like him, he said. Never could walk past trouble. They stood there, two strangers connected by a man who was gone but somehow still present. The wind tugged at the hem of her jacket, making the patch ripple slightly. What's your name? He asked. Lena. He smiled faintly. I'm Grant. She considered his offer. Every warning she'd ever learned told her to keep moving, keep distance, trust no one. But another part of her, the part that still remembered sitting on her dad's shoulders, the smell of leather and oil, felt something like safety. Just for the night, she said finally. Grant nodded, relieved. Just for the night. They rode out together, Lena in the back seat of Grant's bike, holding on loosely at first, then a little tighter as the road stretched on. The engine's vibration hummed through her bones, steady and reassuring. The sky darkened from gold to deep indigo, stars pricking through one by one. At the motel, the group checked in without fuss. Grant handed her a keycard. Room's yours, he said. Door locks from the inside. Thank you, she said, meaning more than the words could hold. She slept deeper than she had in weeks. Morning came with pale sunlight and the smell of coffee drifting through the thin curtains. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then memory returned, gentle instead of sharp. She sat up, jacket folded neatly on the chair beside the bed. Downstairs, the bikers were already gathered, quieter than the night before. Conversations paused as she entered, then resumed, easy and respectful. Someone slid a plate of pancakes toward her without comment. She ate slowly, savoring the warmth. After breakfast, Grant approached her again. So, he said, what's next for you, Lena? She shrugged. I was thinking of heading to my aunt's place. Haven't seen her in years. Don't even know if she still lives there. That's a start, he said. Where is it? She told him. Grant nodded. We're passing close. We can get you within a few miles. Her eyes widened. You don't have to. I know, he said. But we want to. They rode together again, the miles unspooling beneath the tires. When they stopped near a quiet town, Grant cut the engine and looked at her seriously. Before you go, he said, there's something you should know. She tilted her head. Hawk didn't just wear that patch, Grant continued. He helped build what it stood for. Loyalty, protection, looking out for the small ones when no one else would. He reached into his saddlebag and pulled out a small, worn card. On it was the same emblem as her patch. If you ever need help, he said, handing it to her, you show that to the right people. Doors will open. Her fingers trembled as she took it. Why are you doing this? Grant smiled. Because you're his daughter. And because someone once did it for me. She slid off the bike, adjusting the jacket on her shoulders. It felt different now. Not just heavy, but strong. Anchored. Take care, Lena, Grant said. You too, she replied. As she walked toward the town, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. The road ahead was uncertain, but she wasn't alone in it anymore, not really. Her father's legacy walked with her, stitched into leather, carried in quiet respect, alive in the way strangers became guardians without being asked. And somewhere behind her, engines roared back to life, carrying the memory of Hawk Hill onward, 1 mile at a time.